So all of this has been a bird's eye view of the word Dhamma in response to the question, what is Dhamma? And in short, the answer is these various things about nature which we have been discussing. And now we'll speak about the second topic, about the word sasana. What is sasana? The most brief and correct definition for the word sasana is simply the method or way of getting out of dukkha. Sasana means the way of getting free of dukkha. The way of getting out from dukkha is needed by all living things. All beings which have life need a way to escape from dukkha. This is called sasana. So all living things require sasana. If we look, we'll observe that all living things, everything without all living beings, have their way of escaping from dukkha. This applies to all living things without exception. Crabs and rats have their way of escaping into their holes to avoid danger. Birds escape by flying up into the sky. Other animals can run and flee from the danger. If we look honestly, we must accept that all animals have their sasana, their means of escaping from dukkha. These are the examples of the sasana of animals. We have instinct to be afraid of death, to be afraid of danger and death. This basic instinct, the instinct of flight or the survival instinct, is the foundation of sasana or religion. All sasana, there wouldn't be any sasana if it wasn't for this survival instinct in all of us. There's both physical suffering and mental suffering. Animals have the advantage because they only have the physical suffering, and so they can deal with it rather easily. Human beings, however, also have these very complicated and profound minds, and so there's also very complicated and profound mental dukkha for human beings. And for this reason, we're unable to escape from dukkha completely. Animals are luckier than us because they only have to deal with physical dukkha. Human beings have all kinds of mental dukkha, and we haven't been able to solve it to this day. We still have all kinds of problems and conflicts and everything. So there's both physical dukkha and mental dukkha, and sasana is the way to deal with these various kinds of dukkha. Don't say that animals don't have their sasana. They do. All animals have some form of sasana to deal with their physical dukkha. And then this is also the foundation for human sasana when we attempt to deal with our mental dukkha. Now we're having the problem that we don't understand sasana sufficiently. Both the humans and the devas don't know sasana or understand the sasana enough to get free of dukkha. So whether we're devas or humans or whatever, we must study this sasana until we can quench dukkha completely. Some sasana are just a bunch of ceremonies and rituals, and how that is going to quench dukkha we don't really understand. Other sasana leave everything to God and end up being something like just a way of trying to flatter God. So exactly what sasana is something we should look at very carefully. The first people who appeared, our primitive ancestors, had their little rituals and ceremonies. They had their superstitions. This is what made up the first religions. And these superstitions continue even today. So we need to be very careful to understand what is truly sasana. We need to avoid all these superstitions which even now exist. Discriminate superstition from sasana is quite simple if we take the Pali as our standard. It's often very clear. So the word superstition or sayasat comes from the word saya, which is to sleep. Sat means knowledge or science, like in the English, the Greek suffix ology. So sayasat is the science of sleepers or sleepology. It's the knowledge of those who are asleep. Puttasat is, putta means to be awake, to be awakened. So puttasat is the knowledge or science of those who are awake. Sayasat is the science or sasana of sleepers, and puttasat is the science or sasana of those who are awake. If we go to the Pali, the distinction is clear. Now all of us are following the Buddha sasana or puttasat, and so it's quite clear that we're following the religion or science of the awakened one. And then we must make ourselves fit to be awake. We shouldn't sleep. We shouldn't let ourselves sleep in superstition. But one difficulty is that sayasat appeared before puttasat. Before there was the Buddha sasana, there was plenty of sayasat. And then once there appeared the Buddha sat or Buddha sasana, all the people who couldn't understand it then changed it and adjusted it to be superstition. And so this continues even today, that a lot of so-called Buddhism has really been turned into superstition by the people who are unable to understand the science of the awakened ones. So we must be very careful about this confusion, because even today things are quite mixed up and messed up. Whether in America, Europe, or Asia, sayasat appeared first. All of us, all human beings, are born lacking wisdom. And so sayasat or superstition must appear first in each of our lives and in each of our cultures, until one day we meet up with something higher, with puttasat, with Buddhism. But even so, sayasat and puttasat are still still mixed up together. So we need to be very careful. Even in the West, they're mixed up. Supposedly these scientific Western cultures are still quite confused with superstition. For example, when all kinds of modern technology and science is used to build a ship, they still have to, before they launch the ship, they still have to break the bottle of champagne on its bow. For absolutely no purpose, they waste a good bottle of champagne. And so, even nowadays, Sayasat is mixed up with science. A simple principle for telling Sayasat apart from Putasat is that superstition is to depend on others. Superstition is to rely upon things outside of oneself, whereas Buddhism means to rely on oneself, to rely on things within oneself. Sayasat is based in faith, in believing things, whereas Putasat is based in intelligence, in wisdom. Sayasat is just blind faith, and Buddhism is the approach of wisdom. For Buddhists to rely upon, to seek help from from spirits, ghosts, from the devas, even from the biggest deva of them all, God, to seek any help or to depend on any of them or anything outside of oneself. Buddhists should understand that all of this is superstition. Except those who rely upon God, if they change the meaning of God so that, to make it correct, so that it means the impersonal law of nature, then that is an exception. That if they understand God in the right way, then that is not Sayasat. Therefore, our sasana is Buddha-sat, or Buddha sasana. Don't let any Sayasat get mixed up with it. Don't let any of it in. There's something kind of amusing or even kind of joke or pun in the Pali. The word Saya, besides meaning to sleep, can also mean better than nothing. So Sayasat or superstition is better than nothing. So the people living in the woods, or the primitives long ago or even now, they have their so-called superstitions which are necessary for them to survive. And this is, of course, better than nothing. The aim of Buddhism is to destroy Sayasat or superstition. If you reflect upon what is called Silapata Parasa, one of the first fetters, its meaning is the same as superstition or Sayasat. And the point in Buddhism seeks to free us from such fetters. Silapata Paramat means to understand or practice Dhamma in a way that is incorrect according to that Dhamma's meaning. So to take some Dhamma for teaching and to understand it and practice it incorrectly. This is a fetter or sanyojana which we must abandon, which we must get free of, in order to realize Sotapannahood.